Hello, everyone. Today's episode is going to be a conversation with an ex-professional poker player. Couple of quick things. There ended up being a lot of swearing in this podcast, so I wanted to give you guys a warning since that's a deviation from the norm. Also, David has a lot of views around money and dating that Charlie and I don't share, but in the name of having a fluid conversation, we don't necessarily say every single time that we disagree, but we did try to ask the questions we thought the audience would find the most interesting. And last thing, afterwards, David made some cuts to the episode, so I apologize for any rough transitions. And with that, Justin, let's do the podcast. Episode something. What's up, man? It's our good friend.
What's up, guys?
Ex-professional poker player. We'll get into that. But what were we just talking about that we wanted to go live for?
Ooh, so much. We were talking about
Dating in
Charlie's
Oh,
dick
dating
size.
in LA.
Dating in
Sorry.
LA.
We're talking about Charlie's penis size. But first, you said you like living in LA more now that you have a girlfriend. You didn't like being single, which is surprising.
Yeah, hit me.
Yeah. Okay. So dating in LA. God, so much to talk about. I think the personalities that live in LA, that are built in LA, are not the best. Have you guys experienced the same? Because you're not from LA.
I live in Santa Monica, which I think is very different. So, did you find that? I don't know, man. When people say LA, they feel like they're talking about the club scene, the downtown, the Instagram model wannabes. That's not my experience of dating in Santa Monica.
Also, to be fair, we've never lived in like a small town in
Middle of
a
nowhere,
reasonable
yeah.
place, you know? So it's like compared to New York, Rio de Janeiro, Vancouver has amazing people. The personalities there are awesome. But,
Yeah, but all three places, you like Vancouver, New York, and Brazil. Like both those must have been better than LA, I would imagine.
no, New York and Brazil, New York, Rio de Janeiro, and LA is like same.
Really?
Yeah,
Wait,
there's good people,
Why is
there's
New
bad
York
people.
not as? Why is New York not better than LA?
Why do you
would
think
it
LA
be?
is bad?
Okay.
Tell me why you think LA
So,
is bad.
Dude, the personalities that I've met here, I think compared to, well, I've only been in Europe. That's what I'm comparing all this to.
Okay.
And LA compared to Europe is not even close. The level of maturity, like a 19-year-old in Europe is equivalent to like a 32-year-old in LA in terms of maturity.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating. It was so significantly different. Like you would go out and meet some girls that you'd like. A majority of girls you'd meet when going out would be pretty high quality.
And
And
not
in
the case
LA,
for you in LA.
dude, it's like I.
What
all
do
I
you,
do,
what
okay,
is
you guys know
maturity-
me.
What does maturity mean to you?
Hold
I'm
on.
just trying to figure this out.
Okay, you know me very well, and
Yeah,
and you know what was like my number when we were neighbors for a year and a half. What would you say was my number one priority in life?
Definitely meeting women.
Okay, so
And that
some
has
numbers.
never
I've-
wavered.
I have met probably over 1,000 girls. I've been on like 200 plus dates.
Okay.
A majority of those in LA when we were living together, and even before we started living together. And compared to like those numbers, compared to like the dates that I went on in Europe, were not even close.
Do you think that because you were traveling and you were a foreigner, that you were attractive to a bigger percentage of the population, or you were more attractive? So when you were going on these dates, you were getting treated differently?
Yeah, I do think that I had better results in terms of like volume of girls I was meeting and like not being flaked on and having better results with online dating and just going out in general. Like having that American accent goes really far. But that has nothing to do with the quality of girls I was meeting. Even though I was meeting more girls, like each girl individually was of higher quality.
So what does that mean to you?
Yeah,
So-
I was gonna say I want to hone in on this. So yeah,
Okay.
what is that? What is a bad quality LA person to you?
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Yeah. Use their
just today.
Full names,
My-
first and last.
My roommate today showed me a text exchange with this girl that he met at like a small New Year's party we had, and
At your place?
at our place. Yeah,
Wow, thank
she
you
came
for the
over.
invite.
I think I said I think it got lost in the mail. It went to spam.
Your
Maybe
roommate doesn't like Charlie being at parties because he's scared that Charlie will take all the women.
that is actually true.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Where did he get that idea?
dude, like we can't have you guys at parties. Are you kidding me? You guys would
Too handsome,
still-
too charismatic. You're not invited, Charlie.
Anyways, so party that we're not at.
Now you know why.
Now you know that is why.
You're like, why don't I get invited to parties? You will steal every girl.
Oh, well, that's flattering. Just a way of saying that
okay,
I'm not invited.
continuing with the,
No, it's because you're so cool, man. We can't have you.
Okay, so he meets her at the party.
So this girl was at the party and she, let me just read you the text honestly, because he just sent me screenshots. He's like, dude, is this life in LA? If so, what is this going to mean for me? But basically She
Yeah, because you
sent,
guys are business partners now. You love it here, and he wants to get back to Europe.
this is someone completely different.
Oh, interesting.
And let me just show you exactly what she sent him. It's pretty hilarious. So he's trying to schedule a date with her, and he suggests getting drinks near Santa Monica, and she's like, I think we might have talked about this on New Year's, but have you tried tequila? And he's like, it's been a good while since I've had some, but yes. And she's like, well, now regular tequila tastes like gasoline. I had 1942 the other day, and it felt so rough. So for clarification, 1942 is like a $200 bottle of. She's talking about $200 bottle of tequila tasting rough.
Yeah.
Like, how high maintenance is this girl going to be? Like, this is pretty red flaggy.
And so that.
Wait,
type
hold
of
on. I
a
want to
thing-
see. Does it go on?
So he says that's low key depressing. And then he's like, what other drinks do you go to in general? And she said, I love a good smoky mezcal with emoji and worm salt. I like really high quality tequila. And then she goes on to suggest places to go out. And she starts mentioning like $4 sign hotel restaurants. And so that's like I would get that a lot. That's one example.
Interesting.
But also you think about like what personality is cultivated in a city where like most girls come here to become recognized for something, like in the music or modeling or acting scene. Like you're trying to develop this personality that's like recognized, right? So you have to be loud. And
well, I don't find that in Santa Monica. And again, to be clear, I've never
So hold on,
lived.
let's establish what he's saying. So you're saying a high maintenance in terms of money, wants you to buy expensive things, and loud, aggressive personalities.
I'm not saying they will hit all of those. I'm saying like these are what I've seen a lot of.
Oh, I was just saying that in Santa Monica, I don't meet a lot of people who want to be actresses or models. I met a girl who was a consultant, and the date before that, she was a headhunter.
That's awesome.
I don't know if that's like.
Was she hot?
I thought so. I went out with her.
Okay.
So my sense, and do whatever you want, live wherever you want.
Well, he's married. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, mostly. You guys managed to hang out with that scene way more than Ben and I. And I think you're filtering for it. I think that all the plans you've had to get promoters to your house to like throw these types of parties, the people that have come, I've never, ever in 2 years had a girl say, take me to a $4 sign place. I've never had anyone be less than gracious when it comes to splitting the bill. I do think that there's a filter that you guys have thrown on your LA women.
Yeah, most of the time I just ask people to go to the Shangri-La, the hotel bar near us.
Yeah, it's great.
And they're normally very excited.
Stoked.
No one's ever been like, that place is kind of meh.
So like, I would say 5 months ago, I met just like all my friends met this girl. I met her in Finland. It was actually a pretty insane interaction. Like I was working at a laptop at a cafe, and as soon as I say hi, she starts laughing, and I'm like, why are you laughing? And she's like, I closed my eyes before crossing the street, and I literally asked the universe to like give me someone who's like finally introduced me to a man who's interesting. I swear to God, this happened. She starts laughing when I talk to her, and we had the most insane 22-minute interaction ever. Just like so like insane eye contact, she asked me 80% of the questions, really, really good, deep questions, and exchanged Instagrams, and then ended up like basically dating for 2 months. She wanted the whole open relationship thing. She was going to fuck other girls, bring girls back, have threesomes, fuck other guys, do her own thing. She was like self-employed. We did all sorts of fun activities together. But I couldn't fall in love with her because in the back of and this is my own neuroticism, but I felt like there was maybe some self-defense mechanism by allowing myself to fall in love with her, and maybe not feeling the same back from her, I would get hurt eventually. So I never let myself feel that intense love emotion for her. Does any of this make sense?
Why didn't you think that she would love you back?
Because she was f***ing other guys.
Okay.
Maybe that's why.
Okay. Me, I don't know. I don't mean to put this on you, but weirdly enough, that might have been a way for you to protect yourself. Like, no, go f*** other guys.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that way, you can't love me that much, and I'll know, and therefore I can't love you as much. Interesting.
There was probably a lot of that.
Okay.
So I realized that I need someone who's emotionally doting.
Who's doting?
Doting, yes. Emotionally and physically. I want to feel loved. I realized that I'm a needy bitch.
Sure.
And then so this girl that I was seeing on and off is very doting. And I fucking love it, man. And I am with her, and it's gross. And it'll like it's calmed down a lot, but I really like that
Got
aspect.
it.
So I learned something. So maybe you just need someone to.
Well,
touch
do you think
Yeah.
that do you think with the first person, if you had just been monogamous, that you could have felt that way?
It's possible. I had all these check marks that I thought I wanted, like I mentioned, and she hit a majority of them. The open relationship thing, the self-employed, very hot, very in shape, ambitious, like hungry for life, like that level of energy. And I thought, and that was on my like journal, and I thought that's what I wanted. And I met her, and she didn't like, I don't know, she just didn't trigger the emotions that I thought I would feel with someone like that.
Interesting. Yeah. So I don't. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe both of us are not quite there yet. I don't know. Maybe we're both fine. When I hear what I'm hearing as an underlying thing is that like you're looking for someone to make you feel a certain way, and in my experience, trying to get the people around me to like cultivate an environment in which I can feel loved is not a long-term winning strategy. And this has mostly come from ayahuasca, now MDMA, Bufo. But like trying to arrange the world such that I feel supported, safe, and loved seems to be a loser compared to looking internal and being like, how can I do this in the absence of all the people that I think I need or the doting that I think I might need? Not saying that you should go down that route, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the word for that type of relationship where they're both needing something from each other and it's very unhealthy.
Codependent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
all of
Those are the
my
antibiotics.
Yeah.
And wiping it, make me forget words.
Yeah, no, that was the one the woman that I was most I thought in love with, in retrospect obsessed with, was the perfect puzzle piece of codependency. Like I needed her valid. I'm not saying this is you.
Yeah.
I'm saying she was doting and she reminded me, and I didn't realize this, of the love that I grew up with from my mother, which was touchy and doting and unconditional, except it wasn't.
Right.
in this
But
case,
but it felt like it. It felt like it.
And then it was mixed with the love of my father, which was more conditional. And so I had to still achieve and perform and be at a certain level. Anyway, it was this whole chemical cocktail mix. And in retrospect, when I look back on, I see this is just, and I mean this in the most neutral way, she's just a person. She's just a woman. She's like, the fact that I thought that my life was going to be so much better with her is so humorous to me today. Not saying that this is what you're experiencing, but what I'm trying to do right now is loads of MDMA and ayahuasca and psilocybin and all this stuff to try to like feel love internally.
Well, I mean, you're such a f***ing data collector, which is awesome. And I think what's cool about this is very conceited, but I think what's cool about the three of us is like we're so horny. I don't know, horny. We're so gung-ho for data that like we ask everyone, all of our friends, before we do.
Yeah.
Like at least I think you guys do this too. Before every major decision, like marriage or so, like the fact that we're talking about this is awesome. And I think this is something that not enough people do enough of. Like they don't talk to their mentors or ask around like, should I marry this girl? And strangely, when talking to a lot of people about like how I felt about my girlfriend, and like the amount of data I've collected up to this point, before meeting her and like applying it to this relationship, I feel so confident that like she is the one. And
So tell me what that means. So you're so confident that she is the one. What does that mean? That you're very confident that you will never get divorced, that every day will be shining and wonderful. I know you don't believe that, but for instance, like what does the one mean to you?
So those two examples I can't predict, but the level of like happiness and contentness and challenge that I feel with her every day, like consistently, is higher than any other relationship I've ever been in. And we're now, I mean, about 11 months in. It's a pretty like, and just even like on our first date, like I remember journaling after and just thinking, dude, this has insane potential. I've never had a more fun date in my life. And it's like that every day with her. Like we just goof around. I can be 100% myself. There is one thing that was interesting when so the girl I was talking about before in Finland, I felt this a little bit, but when my friends pointed this out, I really noticed it, that my personality was stifled a little bit with her. and like I want 0% of that.
Yeah.
And with the girl I'm dating now, there's 0% of that.
So let me. I'm not sure if you're saying this. So when you say, okay, 11 months, wonderful, you are yourself. When you say you're confident she's the one, that means you are confident that that experience will perpetuate itself into the future as you both grow, of course. But you're confident that that can last forever, for another 11 months, for 11 years. Like, what does it mean to be the one in your mind? What sort of future confidence do you have with this idea of the one?
I think 11 months in, given what we've been through, like we're past honeymoon stage and have been living around the world together and doing a bunch of different shit together and experiencing some shitty shit together. Like I've seen all facets of her personality. Maybe there are things I haven't seen yet. Who knows, like as soon as she goes through, like who knows? She could have
has
kids
a baby,
or his baby, everything changes. So I cannot predict what would happen at that level.
So your concept of the one doesn't necessarily extend so far into the future as it does of like, no, I'm confident. Is this right? That these 11
like
months
there are some future projecting like going on, right? Like how will she handle being a mother? Do I think she's like, assuming I want kids, would she be a good mother? And are there like good mother qualities in her that I've seen so far? The answer is yes. But primarily like the things that I mentioned earlier, how we make each other feel, how I can be myself, how she challenges me and vice versa, how she handles stress. Like she's very non-reactive, which is amazing. Honestly,
but you're confident that those things will continue into the future.
Yes.
Got it.
How do you know the honeymoon phase is over?
I think that usually goes on for 3 to 6 months when there's like peak sex activity and you're the shit out of each other and experiencing like sex love. And from what I've read and experienced, that usually doesn't extend past 6 months.
So the honeymoon phase for you is the sex, basically, where the sex is fire and the chemistry is what drives the relationship.
Yeah. So at this point, we've like lived together for a total of, I would say, 4 or 5 months. And
we haven't had sex once in the so that's how I know we're
fucking fighting. We're not fucking. Yeah.
Got it. This is what always gets me about people who don't want to sign prenups. What kind of a friend would have you sign a contract with anyone in the world that says, look, if this doesn't work out, I want you to give them half of what you own, and especially if there's a disparity. It's like, that's not anything that I would expect Ben to do in our friendship or anyone else in any friendship. So when people don't sign prenups, that to me is a giant red flag if there's a huge wealth disparity.
Yeah.
I also don't think, the idea that you should get to anyone, guy or girl, should be get to live the same standard of life that they did when they were with a very wealthy partner after they split from that wealthy partner is insane, because the wealthy partner doesn't get the affection, the love, the sex, anything that they grew accustomed to inside of that relationship. So why would anybody get to keep the financial reality that they experienced? So we don't need to get into prenups deeply.
There was one interesting takeaway from that podcast though, which is he does these weekly check-ins with his wife. Do you remember that? Where they would literally sit down once a week and talk about like a couple questions each on basically how things are going, what do you like that I'm doing, what do you don't like that I've done, what do you want to see more of. I think that sounded really fucking healthy.
Yeah.
How long have they been doing that for?
Probably just 0 times, and it's something that he talked about that's interesting on the podcast.
Well, the reason I asked is because like I've had relationships where you come up with this idea and it's like a great idea, and then after literally a month of it just falls by the wayside, or someone doesn't want to do it, or you still do it, but you're going through the motions, kind of mailing it in. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that would be an awesome idea, but you have to really both be committed to doing it and being fully present for it and that kind of thing.
Well, I think this is a good segue. So poker. No, this is interesting because I got to be honest. When I listen to you talk about this and you're making a bet off of 11 months for 70 years, whatever, like, based on this much data, I can extrapolate this much experience, like what I expect. That does not seem like a good poker bet to me. So I want to talk about what I imagine is you actually are, I really think, a very passionate, emotional person. Is that fair?
I would say somewhat emotional. but passionate. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so passionate meaning
Okay.
like you're into this person, like you
feel your feelings strongly.
Yeah.
and there's part of you. I don't mean this in a mean way, that like loves that coincidental magic that happened when you bump into someone, and can believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is therefore significant. That she had this. The one woman had this perception of you that she said, I wanted to meet this amazing guy, and she did. And you had an amazing 22 moments, and you went home and were like, this is something, as opposed
Not
to
just a coincidence.
this is 22 minutes of an interaction. Is that, am I wrong in saying that that's the way that you sometimes operate?
Yeah. No, that's correct.
Okay. So that to me seems like a bad strategy for entering a poker match where you're like, oh, somebody just said 7-2 and I have a 7-2. Like, I need to go all in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So were you an emotional poker player?
I was initially, and it's interesting that you bring this up, that you have this perception of me that I'm this emotional guy, because I went through 10 years of intense poker training where you have to build up this insane emotional resilience to bad beats, which are hands where you're statistically supposed to win, but then you lose. And you're like, fuck, I deserve to win that. I deserve to have this result. And you become attached to your results, and those results change, and you think something's wrong. And so
you go on tilt.
You go on tilt, exactly, which is basically just another word for frustrated.
and you play stupidly.
Yeah.
Well, then,
and
you
so
start chasing the money that you think you deserve.
It's mine, so I'm chasing. Got it.
And so I became this emotionless robot, and I was in this 5-year relationship near the peak of that process, and she noticed it, and all my friends noticed it. And then when I quit,
over. Sorry, you don't mean emotionless robot at the table. You mean your whole life was you were an emotionless robot.
No, I was full of emotion person prior to poker. Poker trained it out of me,
but then it followed you outside the table.
Yes, exactly. And then after poker, I literally went to therapy 4 blocks away for the whole entire existence. The time I was living here, to train myself to start feeling emotion again.
Wow,
man.
Yeah,
that's fascinating, because it sounds like what you didn't. I mean, you may have thought you trained it out of you. Obviously, what you did was repress it. And it's clearly there's a part of you that is. I don't mean this in at all a judgy way. Like, you believe in magic and the one, and like these are things that are not universally agreed upon in this day and age. But for someone who is such a poker player to believe in that, I think says something about the type of person that you are. Do you know what I'm saying?
I disagree. I believe she's the one because of data. Like, poker is about betting with incomplete information, and that's what I'm doing now. I have not met every girl in the world, and I have not fully fleshed out my entire existence and who I am, and like that's always changing. Like, you're a completely different person than who you were 5 years ago, and we're all evolving like that, right? And so I don't know who I will be in 5 years from now, what I want as that person, but from what I can see with her, compared to all the other data sets that I have of literally thousands, like every time you go to bungalow, how many you talk to 10 girls? Okay. Well, you used to go do a tour and then
I think what
go
Charlie's
home.
saying is that
you believe in the one at all.
That you use the phrase "the one."
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think even if Charlie got married, he would not necessarily be like, "This is the one." He would say, "This is the person I'm marrying because of the people I've met. It's who I like the most, or I've gotten older and I want kids, or whatever the explanation would be." Charlie's explanation, if he had his current mind, wouldn't be that she's the one, because he doesn't believe that there is a one.
I'm in the exact same boat.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm describing. Out of all the girls I've met, all the data points that I have, she's the best of all of those by far.
You got it.
For
Poker
me,
analogy.
yeah.
You got pocket aces. You're feeling good about the bets beforehand. You're like,
I'm pretty likely to win with aces, but
my
it's possible
chips in.
that I'll lose and be wrong.
Got it. Okay, so going back to poker, let's just establish a handful of things, because I actually don't know the answer to this.
Okay.
You played mostly in person or online?
I played the first 7 years online.
Okay. And were you doing like multiple hands at a time? Were you?
How old were you when you got into it?
Okay, so I'll start. So I moved to Asia to teach English.
Yeah.
And I finished a year teaching English, and I was in Shanghai, and I literally just reached out to random friends on Facebook, and with some of my old gamer buddies. I also used to play Warcraft 3 professionally. Like, I had a salary and a fucking shirt.
Whoa! Wait!
Awesome.
What? I didn't know this,
dude. I had a shirt, a jacket that said Samsung and had sponsors on it. I'd wear it to high school. Girls made fun of me, so they called me professional losers.
Wait, Warcraft
3.
Warcraft. This is Blizzard.
Yeah, it's a
why
Blizzard game.
Samsung?
It's a strategy game.
Why
That was his
Samsung?
sponsor.
That was the
would
sponsor
wear
of
it
our
when he
team.
played.
Okay.
PG
Got it.
was a professionally sponsored team from Germany.
Got
And
it.
they had a Warcraft 3 division, and I was on that team.
In
And-
high school?
In high school, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much did they pay you?
Dude, back then, so esports is just fucking insane
Yeah.
now. But back then, I would get $300 a month, and they would cover my travel to tournaments in the U.S.
Does it hurt you that you didn't just stick with being an esports athlete? Forget poker, forget real estate.
Dude, if I could just stream on Twitch in my boxers all day now, I would be very happy.
Do you honestly think that if you went back knowing that esports would blow up, that you had the talent to do it? Because it's ridiculously competitive.
Yeah, I don't. I
It's
don't
so
have the thumb
competitive,
coordination.
but also, but you have to be a character to
Yeah.
make money on Twitch too.
Yeah.
I think I could be a character.
Is
I
that
would do
it?
some accents. I would make some risque jokes.
But not in your future. This is in an alternate universe.
Yeah,
where
but
you're stuck
the
with it.
poker thing is, dude, there's no value on what I learned from poker. It's insane. Like the business skills, the emotional like resilience to bad things happening in your life and being cool in those moments, to evaluating risk, to understanding like business mechanics. A lot of poker players, when we're now jumping all over the place, but online poker was banned in the U.S. It's called Black Friday. It
I
was
remember.
like 5 years ago.
I think I lived in Vegas right around that time, so I knew
Ooh.
people who were
So you suddenly saw an influx of nerds like walking around the casino,
going
not
to
sure what to
casinos.
do.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Let's get to that in a minute. Let me just
Sure.
start from the beginning of the poker journey, because there's a lot there too. But I was in China, reached out on Facebook to some old poker buddies, and they were living in Japan at the time, a mix of Japan and Taiwan, and making 10 figures a month playing poker
10
online.
figures.
10 figures a month. Yeah.
Whoa, hold on. 10 figures?
Sorry.
Is that
Five figures.
5 figures. 5 figures.
They were making over $10 million a month.
That's Okay, so like $10,000 to $90,000 a month or something like that.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. So they're like, dude, you have to come to Taiwan and learn internet poker. And so I moved into my friend's house. I had no fucking money, and they had like the whole computer screen set up with like 15 screens and not 15 screens, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of screens, a lot of computers, a bunch of nerds in a house making a shit ton of money. I guess, was there an equivalent for this in like the old YouTube days before they reduced what you got paid from advertising on YouTube,
Well,
right?
people never really. I think poker is exceptional. People made some more money. Maybe they made twice as much. Maybe they made 3 times as much. But there was this group of people who were playing online poker against chumps a lot of the time, right? People that were just taking out their wallets, and they were doing it 8 hours a day.
Well,
6
YouTube
days a
also
week.
YouTube aggregates. Like if you started a YouTube channel 15 years ago, even if they cut your ad per view, you would have a huge subscriber base because you got in early. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with poker, you don't really build an asset. So when they cut your pay, you're just kind of screwed. You know what I'm saying? Like I wish we had started YouTube 15 years ago because we'd just be 10 times the size. And even if we're getting paid less per view, we'd be making way more money.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of what happened with poker. Is when they banned online poker, 90% of the soft money disappeared from the marketplace.
Okay, so you're there. You've got all these screens. They teach you. You know some of the rules, but they teach you the.
Yeah, so I had dabbled a little bit in high school and played with friends and around. But I go to this house and it's a completely different level, and it was 16 hours per day. Like we would literally go to Subway and buy 4 days worth of food, put it in the fridge, and play poker all day long every day.
And this is no fun, I imagine. Like fun is just.
For them, it's fun because they're just printing money. For me, I don't know what they're doing. I can't understand it yet. And it's frustrating because I'm not nearly at their level and I'm still broke. And it was 2 years of that.
Okay.
Like
2 years of like not.
2 years of insane levels of grinding.
Wow.
Before I started like making enough to actually get me a.
What what do they get at that point in time that you don't yet get? I'm sure there's a ton of things, but like.
Okay, so at the very like basics of poker, you have to understand hand selection. So you're playing with 6 other people. What are the best hands to play from first position, second position, and like there's all these various positions in poker. So just pure hand selection is like the base foundation of poker. You can memorize that, but it does take some time.
Yeah.
And there are adjustments you make. Like for example, you would play very tight if the people in the like, do you know how poker, like there's blinds, like small blind, big blind, and then the rest of the players. So I would play looser, for example, if there's a really bad player who plays a bunch of hands in the blinds, who are the last people to act in a sequence of betting, I would play it much looser because I want to get into many pots with this guy as possible.
Okay.
So the more hands I can play with this guy who I have a massive edge against, the higher my win rate will be. So there's positional awareness, and then there's hand selection, and those are very important things to be cognizant of. And so the player, the positional awareness is really important, especially if you're playing like 10 tables at once. Which,
how do you keep track of that? So what you're saying is, you know who's loose, who's this, and these people are, I guess, staying for some period of time, so they can build up. You can start to get data on them. How do you manage 10 tables at a time, knowing that? Do you have a sheet like, this guy's dumb, this guy's good? Like,
yeah. So a mix of software. So you could legally use software that would download every single hand you played into its database and then spit out stats next to every single player's name. And you could click on each stat and unfold this entire sheet that would take up your entire screen that showed you essentially how they played in every type of hypothetical or situation possible. So you would look at, so just to go like kind of nerdy. So
this is even more unfair than a shark sitting down with a chump in Vegas.
Yes.
This is insanely unfair.
It's unfair, but also, the disadvantage for me is it would like basically force me to play a bunch of tables at once. But yeah, no, I'm honestly, it is very unfair.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's be honest. It was insane. So that's how you play. I mean, I would play up to 24 tables at once.
Wow.
And it would just be bing, bing, bing. I'd literally be making micro decisions, like hundreds of times per minute.
And how much is each hand worth?
Okay. So at the beginning, I played $25 no limit games. That was like the game that I learned on. That was my crux. So the way that you're supposed to increase in stakes is you take 5 buy-ins. So the next stake up is $50 no limit. So you go play with $250. So $50 no limit means you buy in for $50.
Yep.
If you lose it, you have to reload. So you take 5 buy-ins worth and go up to the next stake. And that's it. If you lost those 5 buy-ins, then you would go back to 25 and keep building up.
Got it.
So like getting up to 50 and then 100 and then 200, like those are every time you increase your hourly, 1.5 or 2x's. So it's like a massive.
You're saying you're doing this times 24 tables. So you're starting with 24 tables at 25, then 50, then 100. So at some point,
Well, I was just thinking if you screw up because you're juggling 24 tables at once, it sounds like the most you're going to lose is $50.
No, you're playing 24 tables of $50 on each table.
That's what I'm saying. But so if you're juggling 24 tables and you screw one table up, because you're just going too fast and you're not thinking, you lose $50.
Yeah. So what our rule was, if you increase in stakes, you would significantly decrease your table. So the max table amount of tables I would play would be 4 if I was ever increasing stakes, because it's a completely different player pool that has a much higher level of understanding of poker.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, is who are these guys that are sitting down that don't know not to play 2-7.
Got it.
So the guys that don't know how to play are literally just people that watch the WSOP, the World Series of Poker on ESPN. They saw some guy win. They're like, I want to do that.
Yep.
And they take their paycheck, they deposit it on PokerStars. Friday nights, Saturday nights, those were amazing. People would just show up drunk, and they'd be from like Idaho and Tennessee and Texas, and they'd have no idea how to play. And they would lose like from tens to tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
I just can't imagine. I can't imagine someone just on a Friday night drunkenly losing 10 grand on online poker. But
so
I guess I'm just not being imaginative.
I eventually got pretty good. My roommate was one of the best pot limit Omaha players in the world, which is a variation of no limit. You play with 4 cards. Okay. So it's much more degenerate, and you have to really understand like the relevant value of your hand. So like based on the action that has unfolded in this hand so far, how strong is my hand? So is this, if this guy is showing a lot of like aggression and his stats indicate that he's typically a passive player, then something is fishy. Either he's bluffing or he has a strong hand. Given he has a passive history, he's most likely holding a strong hand. And so like you would, so pot limit Omaha, it's very important to pay attention to that. Anyway, he would make like, he probably made over 10 million from online poker.
Wow.
And I would just watch him make like 50 to 100K in a night sometimes.
Wow.
Jeez.
And but he was like literally like top 5 pot limit online players in the world.
Okay, so you're doing this. You're playing online poker. You get much better. You start limiting tables. How much you pull in when things start going well?
Okay, so God, I remember like the first time I had $1,000 a day. Did you guys have one of those? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the first time I had $1,000 a day. So I had software and it would show me how much I made that day, and I would look at these graphs. Very unhealthy behavior, because one of the biggest lessons from poker is like looking at short-term results and using that recency bias to determine like what you're going to do next. And if you're playing correctly, like you could flip a coin. This is, I think, a really good analogy. You could flip a coin 10 times and get heads all 10 times.
Yeah.
But if you flip it a million times, you're probably going to get heads close to 500K.
Yeah.
And so with poker, like, that's why there are bad players, right? Because bad players will go in and they'll make theoretically bad decisions that would mean that they should lose money, but they win. And so that could happen with someone like me too. Like I could make an adjustment to my play style and suddenly have $1,000 a day and think, oh shit, this is clearly how I should play. So you have to really view everything in a like large enough vacuum to eliminate like short-term results. And I think that's true for business. It's true for dating. Like you could have a bad Tinder night and think, I'm never going to use Tinder again. And I think people do that a lot.
Yeah.
But okay, going back to poker.
Got it.
No, I think that's a good analogy though.
All right. So
I threw Tinder out. I had a bad experience in 2013 in Brazil when we started. I didn't use it for 4 years after that. I was done with online
dude,
dating.
you might be a fish in poker.
Yeah, I definitely am. Well, luckily I didn't. So we all played poker in high school.
Yep.
And I went to a casino early, and I'm so thankful that my first experiences in poker and the casinos were of crushing losses. No, I'm so thankful that I didn't win.
Yeah.
Because it has left a distaste about gambling in my mouth ever since, and I think it served me really well. Because had I won, I would have gone and lost.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? I actually think you would be extremely good because you're very self-aware, and I think that's really important for playing live poker, especially. Like you have to be aware of every single tick, dude. It would like, okay, quick story. But when I eventually transitioned to live poker, I would wear a scarf. Like the level of detail to block my pulse and how much I swallow.
Wow.
Like the level of detail, because I could see it in other people. I'd be like, wait, if I can see their pulse increasing in their neck. Or how often
you would see the boom, 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 boom. Okay. So you see that. It doesn't mean anything in a vacuum, I assume. What might?
Because they might be excited or bluffing. And
no, dude. If you're bluffing, like for me and for all of my friends, we would talk. We had a WhatsApp group. We would talk about reads and our own self-analysis and analysis. We had like a Evernote with pictures of every single professional poker player or bad player in the world, and like would share notes on each person. And you could type up, like, it was insane.
So are there ticks that are fairly universal in terms of if I see this person's pulse, that's a bluff? Or is it like, no, I have to match the tick to the individual?
Everything, like you can't take one read and run with it. In general, it has to be matched to what they've done in the hand so far, and it has to match the actions that they've taken.
Got it.
So if there's something slightly fishy about the line that they've taken in this hand, where there's a like 55% or 60% likelihood that they have a bluff, that physical tell is going to push me, like move the needle enough where I'm going to go with it.
Got it.
But there are some things that some players do where it's 100%. For example, this is a tell that I've probably made over $100,000 on. When a bad player, so like in poker again, you have position, right? So someone has to go first, someone goes second, and then that's it. And then on to the next card or the hand's over. So out of position is the person who has to go first, because ideally you're in position and you can act last. So this is on the river. This is the last like street, the last, there's no more cards to come. If I'm out of position, so I'm first to act and I'm considering what I want to do, and there's a bad player next and he starts reaching for his chips, playing with his chips and like pretending like he's going to bet, like he's acting like he's about to bet if I check, right? So that means that he wants me to check because he wants to check so I don't bet. So that would, like, they do shit like that. So that's like basically,
so people trying to throw out
this guy's a fish, right?
Yes.
Not a shark.
Yes.
And so he thinks he's being clever.
Yes.
By touching his chips, trying to figure out, oh, how much should I bet? Because if he were gonna bet, he would just wait till you checked to start counting.
Yeah.
And
so
so
now
once
you know
you
he
see
wants to
that,
check through.
once you see that, you know that he's not got a great hand.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would dictate what I do, right?
You
If
could
I
push
have
him out
if I
if
have
you
a
bet.
bluff or
Yeah.
if I have a hand that I want to get some value out of, I would do some ridiculous things.
Wouldn't you bet that either way though?
Okay,
if you
no, because it dictates how much I bet. So if I have a really strong hand, typically like a standard bet size would be 50% to 100% of the entire pot. So if there's 10K in there, I would bet 5K or up to 10K. But you can do some ridiculous things. Like if there's 10K and he's doing those shenanigans, you can bet like 5%. It's like something so absurdly small where, you know, he would never call any amount otherwise, but you get that extra amount. And like those small micro decisions are like what can increase your hourly like at a game by so much money.
You know he's got a loser, and you're like, I'm gonna win, but I want a little bit more money out of this guy.
Because if you just double the pot, he's gonna fold.
He's gonna fold. Got it. And so you take a tiny bit more from him because he just wants to see what you've got in the final analysis. Interesting. Okay, so clearly there's not like if he does this, then that means.
You think that alone has netted you 100K in your life?
Dude, I have that read alone, like because when I coach people as well, I used to coach students in poker. Telling them about that read, that was like the number one testimony I got. Like, dude, I can't believe that read.
Wow.
You're right.
Give us some more reads. I like these. Any other interesting ones like that?
I mean, honestly, the pulse and the swallowing thing is really big because
what's the swallowing?
There's books like you could write just on those alone because there's real swallowing and then there's fake swallowing.
Okay.
So like professional players know about the swallowing read.
Yeah.
So when I started playing and live poker, I would fake swallow to like if I had a really strong hand and I wanted and someone was looking at my throat like they always do, I would literally like fake swallow to get them to think that I had a shitty hand and that I was really nervous.
So swallowing indicates
So there's saliva buildup when you're nervous.
Got it.
And there's a trick you can do where you press the tongue against the roof of your mouth, like hard, and that can prevent saliva buildup. So if you're like, I still get nervous in really big pots, like really, really important hands or in tournaments or in cash games. And I would do the tongue pressing trick.
And then when you're conscious of swallowing, you gotta
This is fascinating to me. So when you're nervous, you generate more saliva.
Yeah.
But you can prevent that by jamming your tongue into the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
You know, I noticed this with public speaking. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You don't know when to swallow when you're public speaking. All of a sudden, you're like talking with your saliva. Like,
and then you have the biggest gulp ever, and everyone can hear it. Yeah. So
wait, so then everyone in the poker world knows that, all the professionals.
Yeah.
So then what you would do is try to fake a swallow so they would think you were nervous.
Yes. Yeah. I would literally wait for them to look at my like throat or look in my direction and then swallow. And like most people probably aren't paying attention to that kind of shit, but some definitely do. And the fact that like me and my friends were talking about those reads all the time means that I'm sure others are as well.
Did you ever, I'm sure you did. Did you ever do a fake swallow and then have some guy bet big into you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, acting nervous is like good acting is crucial in live poker.
Okay.
Like betting, like even when you reach for your chips and the way that you bet them, like there's so many reads there too. Like how you throw your chips on the table and you can watch if their fingers are shaking. Like if they normally are very steady with their bets and then suddenly their finger slips, they're probably bluffing. And that read specifically that I just said has also netted me a ton of money. Like watching new young poker players enter the scene of live poker, probably because of online poker, and they're just not that experienced with the physical aspects of playing in a casino or wherever, they're going to make slip ups like that.
Interesting.
Did anyone ever just totally get you? Did anyone ever just read you and own
yeah,
you?
like they're consistently one level
like
above
Phil
me.
Hellmuth just sat down and just ripped away your money.
You know, what's funny is Phil Hellmuth sucks. He's considered a massive fish in the poker community.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
He's very emotional. I've played a lot with him. He's very, very reactive. He gets tilted a lot, frustrated. He makes terrible logical decisions in a very like a wide range of scenarios. But the main thing is that he tilts a lot, like legit tilts. The stuff on YouTube, like it's real. You can look up Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, I've seen some.
Poker. Yeah, he explodes, and it's real.
How does he win the big tournaments then?
Volume. He plays every single tournament in existence. Also, he is really good at. So he's bad against pros, but he's really good at against bad people.
Got it.
Like so for example, I have a friend who looks so nerdy. He's really, really good, but he can't get over how nerdy he looks. So when he plays against bad players, they think that he's a pro because of how he looks. So they like
Oh,
they don't
wow.
even fuck with him. They just leave it. I'm in group threads where they post like hand histories.
Yeah.
So like this is very common, but we'll write down an entire hand from beginning to end and share it with everyone for our notes. And like we all just laugh at the insane shenanigans that make zero sense from
Got it.
Phil.
So in your own life, how's your reading of people? Does this carry over, or is it very poker specific? Can you tell when someone's lying? Do you get senses of business deals, or do you find you're ripped off just as much as anyone else?
Yeah. So my business partner, so I have a company that manages several hundred Airbnbs around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And my business partner was someone that I met through poker.
Mm-hmm.
Super sharp guy, very math heavy. He and I talk about reads all the time in anyone that we do business with. What do we think they're going to do? What do we think about this deal? Are they honest? Like we talk about that a lot. And I would say we are above average. I would say significantly above average. So yes, we are. I am constantly trying to read people in business, but I think I turn it off when I'm outside of a business setting.
Got it. So when there's money flowing is where it turns on.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any interesting business reads that you've made?
Ooh, I have to dig deep for that. I think levels of shadiness, definitely like getting out of like avoiding some deals that felt wrong based on how this person was acting in this meeting or how they sounded on the phone or
And it sounds like this is more intuitive. Like it's not the same thing where you're like, I watched his pulse and I saw him swallow. It's like this person gave me a vibe that was, and then, do you see that thing that he did with his...
I think like, so in interviewing as well, like doing Google Hangouts with staff that I'm considering hiring. I would pick up like a lot of swallowing and things in their voice but I think you do too. Like it's just something that like it's a different skill set almost, but I probably started that skill set building with an advantage, right? Because of my poker background.
Got it.
But then going into business from poker, it's not apples to apples, but I did start with a deep knowledge base, I think.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to the how it ruined things. So you get out of poker, you had to go to therapy to turn
hold
it
on.
on.
I have some
Or
poker
if you want to
questions.
still go.
Yeah. So did you do any training to survive the stress of this? Because I imagine this is an incredibly stressful way to live.
Yeah, I did. So when we were living in Taiwan, we flew over a guy who teaches like the Zen side of poker. And it was $6,000. And he teaches essentially like Buddhism in the context of poker. So how to not be results oriented, how to like recognize when you're playing your C game and walk away.
Yeah, just
and how to take like deep breaths in the middle of a session. How to not let your brain juice get sucked away from. How to not let your brain juice get sucked away from other shit other than poker while you're in the middle of a session. It's very tempting to load up. Back in the day, it was MSN or AIM or email, like in the middle of a session, right? You're playing 4 tables or 6 tables or 8
For 16 hours.
and you want to put Skype on the other monitor and like anytime you're doing that, it's sucking away from your. So your hourly would get drastically reduced.
Really, that's so fascinating.
And
Not
so,
surprising, but that's incredible.
Yeah. So like 100% of your brain juice has to be focused on poker, and if it isn't, then like you need to stop playing. So same thing at the table, like in a casino, it's very boring to sit there and not use your phone and literally pay attention to tells and take notes and stay in airplane mode. And it's because I went from 1,000 hands an hour to the max of 40 hands an hour in a casino. Like that's how much a dealer can physically deal.
Yeah.
And I would get bored. I would get really bored. So my first foray into live poker when internet poker was banned was atrocious. I got crushed.
Because you were just bored.
I would do. I
could lose 40 hands because I'm going to play 1,000.
I became much more loose. I just wanted to win every pot. Like I was fighting everyone. I would fight for everything.
Because you were used to winning a hand every minute or so.
Yeah. But also I felt like I had I would watch so for live poker, they have no idea what they're doing. Seriously. Like if you were even a slight winner in online poker and then you went to a casino, you would just print money because They have no fundamentals. They've never studied poker structurally. They've never played at such levels of volume that I have, where their leaks never, they cannot reach the theoretical threshold where your leaks become apparent and you start losing money, right?
Yeah.
Because so that threshold is about like 500,000 hands of poker. They've looked at like standard deviation graphs in poker, and they can see that at 500K, luck is eliminated. 99.9% eliminated.
Yeah.
So with live poker, you just cannot reach, like, you're getting 30 hands an hour. So just run the math. Like I think it would take like 20 years of playing full-time poker to finally get to that point.
You knew if you were genuinely good or not.
Exactly. So like someone like Phil Hellmuth, like he could just be lucky. He's been playing forever though.
Yeah.
And he plays every tournament. So these guys would be playing live poker and they don't know if they're good, and they have never studied poker. But to get good online and to make money online, you have to be structurally game theory, like playing game theory correct poker.
So why'd you get crushed your first day then?
Because I had never played live poker. I was bored, and I wanted to basically win every single pot because I saw how bad they were, and I wanted to like fight them for pots where my edge was theoretically very, very small, but I wanted to fight for it.
Yeah.
I was probably tilting. That's the true answer. And then I eventually calmed down and got like a WhatsApp group going with some friends, and we got really good at live poker.
Did you wind up making more from live or?
Yeah, because I got into some. So I moved back to LA when online poker was banned. I was living in Asia for 5 years, and then I started playing at Commerce Casino here, and I could like the ceiling with live poker was very high because there were some super high stake games running in both in Commerce and in LA home games. So once I got good, I could play some massive games. Like I played in a home game. I got invited to a home game with 100% Israelis, and me, because I met this Israeli guy in Commerce at a high stakes game, and I guess I started talking to him, and I went to high school with his son. I went to a Jewish high school for a year and then got expelled. Different story for later. You guys will actually really like that story. But he invited me to this game, and it was the most insane game I've ever been in my life. No one knew what they were doing. Average buy-in, I would say probably $20,000 to $30,000. Wow. Dealt by like some guy. He was just around, not even looking. Food, like, and they weren't even taking a rake out of we were just, whoever won that night would just pay the dealer like $1,000.
Wow.
And that would be it. It was a very casual game. And these guys were just real estate guys or diamond guys. They had no idea what they were doing.
How much did you walk away with?
So from that game, I got uninvited. I probably made like 150K.
Oh my God.
And there was a night where my last night, I won 47K. And I actually should have won. I should have, like, I say should because I got into a hand where we both went all in. It was like 100K pot, the biggest pot of my life. And my math to win the hand was above, I think it was like 90%. And he ended up getting the card that like we ended up splitting the pot. It was ridiculous. It was insane.
So they stopped inviting you because you're taking all of their money.
Yeah, I was clearly a professional. I tried, like, I literally tried losing on purpose, but it was clear, like, just by like the way that I bet and my posture and like the way that I paid attention to stuff.
Yeah.
Like they can tell. So I got uninvited. That was like my biggest cash game night. I also was telling Ben I won a tournament for 700,000 once.
Wow.
In Florida, that was insane.
What did you do that night to celebrate?
I cried.
Really?
It was the first time I cried in 10 years. But
that's a good way to celebrate.
So my friends were there, so there was like cheering and all that. I was like, I got to go to my room for a minute. I went to my room and just like laid in bed, laughing and crying for like 20 minutes. And then the whole night, the same thing. Like after we all went out and had an insane night. And the whole night I couldn't sleep. I just like was laughing and crying. It was the most money. Like I just felt like my life was fixed now. Like everything was amazing. all my problems were gone.
Yeah.
It was like, to this day, nothing has matched that level of, even if I did 800 like milligrams of ecstasy, I could not get to that level of happiness.
Wow.
So let me ask. So obviously, I have a couple questions about the money. First off, the attention that you paid in 60 minutes, what you're telling me is you're trying to get it as close to 60 minutes as possible. And what I mean is, if I were at work at the corporation that I worked at, in 60 minutes, I might actually pay attention for 20. You know, like between the guy behind you and the this, and I need a water, and I got to go get it this, and the boss is around here, and let me check CNN or whatever. 20 might even be high, and you're approaching a maxed out hour or stepping away, and you're doing it for multiple hours a day. So let's start with this. How much money would you say you've netted overall in this many years?
I've net about 2 million.
Okay.
Gross earnings, obviously much more than that. I know, like, some people don't know what net means.
So
I net 2 million over 10 years, which is actually not that much when you think about it on a yearly salary.
Mm-hmm. So this is
in poker, what's the difference between gross and net?
Yeah, I actually don't know.
So gross would be like, for example, if you look up Daniel Negreanu on cardplayer.com, it would say he's won $40 million worth of tournaments, but it doesn't consider how much he's used to buy in those tournaments, how much he's lost in tournaments that are unreported. So
got it. So you're saying
so
that
gross
if you win
minus
$1 million and then lose $1 million, your net revenue or your net income would be zero.
Yeah.
So you netted $2 million.
So yeah,
after your losses and after your buy-ins.
So it's an average of $200K a year.
Yeah.
And the attention that you're spending, it seems like, is far more than in almost any other job that I could conceive of. So the true question is this hourly an effective way to make money, or is it not?
I would never suggest anyone plays poker again.
I mean, because, like, you know, how much hard work are we doing right now? Like, you couldn't say this is 60 minutes.
Dude, come on, you guys work extremely hard. But, I mean,
I think you're confused, my friend.
But the last 10 years, you write scripts for every video.
Yeah.
That's got to be emotionally draining.
It's hard in its own way. But what I know I don't have in me is 60 minutes of uninterrupted focus. I have never in my life had 60 minutes. No. I'm incapable. I mean, I perhaps could learn it with this kind of training, but I mean, I have multiple tabs, multiple things. Let's break for YouTube.
Okay, so what I've read is there's system B and system A thinking, and I think what you're describing is system B, where you're not that focused, and then you can only do a certain amount of hours of system A per day.
That's a great point, because my brain never turns off. I think about the script that I'm doing for the entire week. I'm getting a massage. I go to the massage so I can think about it. I hang out with my friends. I'm thinking how it relates. I never put in that insane focus time where it's just that, or very rarely, but there's a lot of system B thinking, which is like thinking about it at dinner when the waitress says something, how that relates back. So maybe it's hard in a different way.
Yeah. See, I can't do that. I have to be very, very hyper focused.
Okay.
And it is super draining. Did you see that article about chess players and how much calories they're burning?
No.
They burn something like 6,000 calories during a chess match, like Magnus Carlsen.
Wow.
And Hikaru Nakamura. I think they did some tests on them. You can look it up. You have to look it up. Don't quote me on that. But it was 6,000 calories on a professional chess match day.
Jeez.
And yeah, like there's all the pro poker players I knew were frail.
Just glucose.
Yeah.
Churn it out.
Adderall was very helpful. Vyvanse. So there's like literally it's a thing in poker now that like amphetamines are like everyone at a final table is just eyes wide open and cold sweats and just like weird focus that
because they're all on
natural. Yeah, like dude, it's the World Series of Poker. Like to get to the final table, what you see on TV is after 12 days of 12-hour days with a 1-hour break, sitting on a nasty chair in a casino with nasty people
with the smoke-filled casino.
Casino, like looking at numbers and thinking about math all day long. Like your head hurts, man.
It sounds terrible.
I would get migraines.
Yeah.
Just like so focused to not swallow for 12 hours, pressing my tongue against the roof of my mouth.
So what does it do? I mean, it doesn't sound like a good gig, honestly, the way you describe it. What did it do, for better or worse, to your relationship to money in the way that you think and feel about it?
I didn't even tell you. So when I got to Taiwan and first started playing poker, like the guy that was my coach, he made me tear up $100 bills.
Wow.
Like I would tear up a $100 bill and light it on fire, and we burned $500 over like a course of a couple months. This is an actual thing that happened. And he's like, dude, forget about any attachment to money. Like you have money means nothing to you now, and all you're worried about is bankroll management. So what that means in the context of poker is you cannot have any risk of ruin. So any risk that you take by playing 24 tables of $50 per table needs to take into consideration your risk of ruin. So I can't risk losing all my money because that'll eliminate my chance to make any hourly whatsoever. So I would have to continually drop down stakes if I had more than 10% of my entire bankroll on all 24 tables at once.
Okay.
And the actual rule was, 10% is about right. Depends on how many tables you're playing. But so like there is like the amount that I've won or lost that day, it doesn't matter. It's just like units of percentage of like bankroll that I can win or lose. And then once I reach a certain amount, then I increase stakes. And then once I decrease a certain level, I decrease stakes.
Has it changed how you spend or think about money now?
Dude, I am the most frivolous spend. I've spent all my money. People ask me like, what do you, like,
is that because you burned the $100 bills? I mean, is that,
I know that I'm financially secure, and beyond that, like like Ben has a financial advisor. You probably have one, I'm guessing. Do you?
I have Ben.
Okay, cool. Nice. Honestly, Rabbi Ben is pretty good with money. But no, I'm massively, I waste money all the time.
Well, how did you get into real
estate? I never
return
things on Amazon. What?
How'd you get into real estate? Because that's a smart thing to do with your money.
I had made so much that I had to do something with it eventually.
Let's go somewhere. So
that's honestly what happened.
So with this money, one of the things that I guess is very unique to poker, maybe there's other industries, it's a zero-sum game. Like your gain is someone else's loss. Do you see that impacting your other businesses at all? Is that something that you had to train yourself to break out of?
I don't think about that at all in my other businesses. But I think about the non-altruistic nature of poker and to be honest, real estate as well. Like, how can you be passionate about real estate unless it's some self-sustaining like yoga center for dog saving in Bali or something?
Got it.
Which I actually am interested in doing at some point. But
is that in your life personally, is that something you want to rectify? Because I totally understand what you're saying. You're like, I don't mean this in a mean way. You're rent seeking, and you've made money from people losing it in poker, and I'm sure that you've done other things as well. I'm not saying you're a bad guy, but do you want something different than that?
No, my entire life has been purely selfish. Like everything I've done to this point has been to make money, and in a zero-sum environment. And yeah, I do want to change that. And that's actually an interesting question. Like, when in life do you make the shift to do something altruistic? Like, is it when you've solved your money? Like, because if you're like, I see this in LA all the time, the struggling artist, right? And I think what you should first do is solve your money situation and then do the thing that makes you happy. Because if you're trying to be a creative, altruistic person, but you're constantly worried about making rent, you can't devote all your brain juice to this creative outlet and be 100% yourself, because you're always worried about food and Ubers and getting paid back by that friend for $20. That sucks. Like, it really, I have a friend who's really talented. Just suffice to say, is an extremely talented musician, and he can't make ends meet. So he like can't devote himself to either occupation fully.
Like making money and playing music, you're saying?
Yeah.
I do feel like all the big musicians do it that way, though. I feel like most of the big musicians don't go start a successful entrepreneur business or start a real estate thing and then focus on music. I feel like they just go all in on music.
Yeah, they flop on couches.
They live very impoverishedly, and then they get their big break, and all of a sudden they're rich and famous.
Yeah, but it's like 0.001%.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to, weirdly enough, if you want to be a rock star, you almost have to do it that way.
What about making $50K a year, doing something just to secure a little bit of savings so that you can go commit to music in some capacity? Like, or having a main gig and then a side gig of music.
Sure. I think the thing is, oftentimes if you've spent 0 to 18 focused intensely on your music, you might not have the skill set or the pedigree that people are looking to pay 50 grand for. You know what I mean?
I feel like I can build a bridge here. So I think you said get your money problem solved. I actually think the variable that is huge for success is what one defines as a money problem. So for Ed Sheeran, who is Ed Sheeran now, he slept on other people's couches, didn't really have much to eat, busked for money, and didn't care. Like, it wasn't a problem for him that he literally had to live on someone else's couch for years at a time in order to be able to play the guitar.
Yeah. And
his
to be clear,
threshold is here.
You did the same thing.
My threshold, dude, I Airbnb'd my own bedroom.
Charlie slept on my floor when we started Charisma on Command. He moved, I still had a job, and he quit to go full-time before I did, and just slept on my floor on a little cot. And then, like, we got our 2-bedroom, and we split the rent totally just evenly, and he still didn't want to buy a bed, so he slept on his 4-inch cot on the floor.
But you were doing something that, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but the path to money was very clear there. Like, you could map out how to make money on YouTube. I think the musician route.
No, you don't. So we didn't have a YouTube channel. There was no route. There really was. I actually think a superpower in life is needing little. And what I determined that I needed was $1,000 a month to pay off my student loans, whatever my rent was, and then like $300 for food, which was just garbage, like eating weight gainer powder. And that's what I did.
Banquet, son.
Yeah, it was.
Dude,
but
I have a hilarious video from Brazil. Hilarious. Charlie's food budget was enough for one all-you-could-eat steakhouse, so we would go once a day, and he would just try to get a day's worth of calories in one sitting. And there's a picture of him, like, near tears, just so full. Just, It was just, he had to make sure he's like, there's no dinner tonight.
Oh, my God.
It was hilarious. I think it's still online.
Everybody, thank you. David, thanks for coming over, man. It's been a long time since you've been in this building.
Anytime.
Do you want to get some food? What time is it?
Yeah.
5:10?
Peace.
5:20? You want to get some sushi?
Yeah.